Welcome. Let's figure out what salary is needed to purchase a home in Euless, Texas. That is our goal for today. What salary is needed to purchase in Euless? So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to be hanging out for a few minutes today, making this calculation come to life. As soon as I figure out if this audio is working. There it is. Awesome. So what salary do we need to purchase a home in Euless, Texas? That's something that we're gonna get into, making sure that I have it on the correct screen, by the way. There we go. What salary is needed to purchase in Euless? Now, that's there's a few considerations to keep in mind whenever you're purchasing a home. And one of those has to be, well, of course, the real estate price. If we're going to be factoring in how much, or if we're going to be calculating how much we actually need to make in order to purchase in a specific area, it's very important that we know where the starting point even is. So we're going to get into real estate prices in Euless. We're going to get into property taxes in Euless. We're going to get into HOAs. We're going to be talking about homeowners insurance. We're going to be talking about a lot of different things that have to do with this calculation. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's head into Euless and see what we got going on. So since we need a starting point, we're going to go straight to what's going on in the market right now. We're going to go and see what is available for Euless right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Euless. When you get to this website, all you have to do is go to jaimersons.exprealty.com and you're going to be here. Now, we see there's 112 properties available for sale right now in Euless, Texas. So we're going to click on this. And we're going to focus mostly on single family. In fact, we're only going to focus on single family because that's where a lot of the purchases are going to be. That's where most of the properties are going to be. So I don't know why this one's being special where I have to click it twice. So we're going to hit search. So let's see here. What did I press? Did I press something wrong? Let's go back. Euless City, 429,000. There we go. I forgot to put residential lease off. Okay. Now let's go to search. Here we go. Now, the way that we're going to break this down is we're going to select a property out of what we see here that we want to purchase. Now, it's not going to be the most expensive and it's also not going to be the least expensive, but I want to give you a real life example so we can make this calculation together and know what we ultimately need to make in order to purchase a home in Euless. Again, that's our whole goal. How much do we need to make? What's our salary need to be? How much do we need to earn? How much do we need to have coming into our bank account per year in order to purchase a home in Euless, Texas? So I'm going to move myself a quick second. I'm going to zoom in so you start seeing the types of real estate that we're talking about. So the least expensive home in the city of Euless at the time of this recording is $225,000. So it is this property right here. This has the title at the moment. Now, as you can see, there is quite a few homes, and when I say quite a few homes, I mean 8 homes under $300,000 in Euless. Now, they're not the biggest homes, I didn't say that, but you do see that there are some options here if you're looking for a home right in the thick of things. I mean, you can't get any more central than Euless here. But again, if you have maybe if you have a bigger family, then that might be a bit of a challenge if you're looking at these properties. Now we're going to scroll through and see some other properties that are available for sale. One of the things that I like to look at whenever we're scrolling through a specific region, a specific city, I like to check out, let me move myself and just remove this altogether. I like to see at what price point are investors putting their rehabs out on the market. So this looks like an investor right here based off of the design, or based off of, well, the design and the staging that this property has had. And let me see, this one also looks like an investment property. especially in Euless, you're gonna really not find new construction. So the best or the closest that you can get to a new home is going to be the rehab properties, and that's why I like to look at the numbers that the investors are putting the properties that they've rehabbed out onto the market. And at this point, you're looking at about 345 to 366. So I'm going to say about $350,000 is what the rehab properties are going back out onto the market as. There's not going to be any new construction. I mean, maybe one, but there's generally not going to be any new construction in Euless, as it all has been built out. This is a remodeled home. And the last one, there's 66 properties for sale in Euless right now. So it's not a big city, and not a ton of investment. I'm sorry, not a ton of listings per se. So you have 2 new builds that are being marketed right now around the $660,000 and $680,000. So that's the price point that you would find a new home in. Now it's a beautiful property right there. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna select a property here on the lower side in the 300s that we want to purchase, so we can make our calculation of how much we need to make. And actually, let's go to the second page. Let's get somewhere in the middle. All right, so let's see. Which one do I want to buy? This one looks unique. We are going to buy this 2,400 square foot home. It is 2,400, 4 beds, 2 baths. This is the property that we're going to purchase. So we're going to say that we're going to purchase a property in Euless for $430,000. That is almost right smack in the middle for what you can purchase a home in Euless. Now, are there homes less expensive in Euless that you can purchase? There absolutely is. Now, are those going to be the homes that you ultimately end up purchasing? Probably not. The reason being is because with the homes that we saw on the first page, there is one, the limitation is a little bit smaller. 2, these are being sold as is. So there will be some updating, there will be some fixing, there will be some repairing that you would be required to do in order to purchase, in order to get into that property, feel comfortable in that property, and live in that property as you most likely are intending whenever you're purchasing. So with that being said, we're going to say Euless is the property. We're going to say that the property that we're buying in Euless is $430,000. We need a starting point, and that is it. So we're going to find out how much we actually need to make in order to purchase this property. Now, with that being said, we need to find out what is our down payment. Now, down payment is something that you get to decide let me rephrase that, is what your bank account gets to decide of how much money you can put down on a property. So here, we're going to go with the example of 5% down. That is quite common for a lot of home buyers, especially for some home buyers, to put down on a property. Now, is this the least that you can put down on a property? No, absolutely not. If you have a VA loan, which is more on the military side, so if you've served on the military, you have access to a financial product called a VA loan, which gives you access to 0% down. Now, if you buy a property that's in a USDA zoned area, you have access to a 0% down loan as well. In Euless, you're not going to have that. You're not going to have a USDA zoned property, so that's not necessarily an option for you here. Which leaves us with 2 primary financial vehicles, 2 primary financial loans. One is going to be a conventional loan. The other one's going to be an FHA loan. The minimum down payment that you would have on a conventional side is 3%. The minimum down payment on the FHA side is going to be 3.5%. Those are the differences. So the minimum down payment on conventional is 3%, and the minimum down payment that you're going to have on an FHA loan is going to be 3.5%. Now that we know the minimums, know that most of the time we're going to end up going with a 5% down for several reasons. One, oftentimes, whenever you're purchasing a property for the second time, you're not going to really have access to 3.5% down. That's more of a first-time type of loan. Down payment on the conventional side, more specifically. So 5% becomes a bit more standard. Also, with 5% down, you're lowering the monthly mortgage payment slightly because you're not borrowing as much. Now, I mean, it's not going to be too big of a difference, 3% to 5%, but it is a difference nonetheless. So we're going to go with 5% because that's what a lot of our clients end up going with. Now, the second thing that I want to draw your attention to when it comes to down payment is the fact that you don't need 20% down to purchase a property. A lot of folks still believe that that's the case, that you need 20% down to purchase a home. That is not the case. Now, why does 20% continue to come up in a lot of the conversations that you have? Well, because the 20% is, think of it like a benchmark, or just think of it as a benchmark. If you put anything less than 20% down when you're purchasing a home, you're paying what's called mortgage insurance. And that mortgage insurance is an insurance that the lender takes out on you in the event that you default. And that mortgage insurance is an additional fee, additional expense that you're going to be paying every single month. Now, again, that's anything. If you put less than 20% down, you're going to be paying mortgage insurance. Doesn't matter if you pay 5%, 10%, or 15%, you're going to be paying mortgage insurance. Now, here's a big distinction between the financial products, and we can keep going. One is if you're on the conventional loan, if you get a conventional loan, if you go 5% down, the moment that you surpass 20% owner equity in your property, meaning as you make payments in year 8, 9, 10, 11, however long it takes to eventually become 20% owner in your property, the mortgage insurance goes away on the conventional loan. So again, with conventional loan, eventually your mortgage insurance goes away. And I'm going to give you the exact number of what that looks like. On an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance never goes away. So either you pay off the entire loan, you refinance into another loan, or you sell the property. Those are really the three ways that you would get rid of mortgage insurance from an FHA loan. Those are two distinct loans. With that being said, let's keep going. I just wanted to kind of draw your attention to that because there's the misconception that you still need 20% down, or that you need 20% down to purchase a home. I thought that for the longest time until I became a real estate agent. I did not know that there was anything different. Turns out I was wrong. Interest rate. The interest rate right now is something that we're going to find pretty easily. We're going to go over here to what is the interest rate right now for buying a house. And we're going to go over to bank rate. I like going to bank rate now more than I used to use Google in this series, but I found that Google's a bit too delayed. And I found that out mostly because the interest rates here in the past week have done an absolute, I was going to say nosedive, but not really. They've been substantially lower than what Google was showing. And I want to show as accurate and as close to the real life situation as we can have. And in this particular case, Bankrate gives us that information. But you're going to do the same thing. If you're watching this video a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, you can go into Google or whatever happens to be dominated. It might be AI. You can use the exact same calculation that we're going to go through right now and find what is the interest rate that we have at the moment. And right now it's 6.48% on a national average. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to type it in because the formatting changes. Now, as you saw there, just from the live stream that we did on Wednesday, because the time of this recording is a Sunday, just from the time that we did a live stream this past Wednesday, it has dropped a little bit. As you can see, it went from 6.5 something to 6.48. Now, you are probably going to get something a little bit higher, or maybe you might get something a little bit lower. It's going to depend on your credit score. It's going to depend on the loan amount. It's going to depend on the timing of when you get your loan. But on average right now, if you were to get a loan, you'd be looking at the 6.8% mark. Now, what is the interest rate? The interest is how much you are going to be paying on the loan amount. So basically the 95% that you're not coming to the table with, the down payment is something that comes out of your pocket. The other 95% is what the lender is letting you borrow. So it's that loan. And you're going to be paying 6.8% on that loan. How long is your mortgage? Traditionally, 30 years is the default where most of home buyers end up going with 30 years. But you can do a 15-year loan. You can do a 20-year loan. You can even do, there's financial products now that go up to 40 years. But for the most part, 30 years is kind of where everybody is at, or most people are at. Property tax rate. This is going to be one of the most important parts of our conversation today because property tax rates are wildly misunderstood and can be quite challenging to actually find the actual property tax rate for the city that you're purchasing. Every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex has a different tax rate. and it's calculated a little bit different. Now, with that being said, whenever you purchase a property, you are paying property taxes on that property. So that's number one. Number two, understand that the property tax rate in the state of Texas is among the highest in the entire country. We don't love that, but it's the reality of this situation. I guess that's the trade-off for not having a state income tax. Now, the third thing to recognize when it comes to property taxes is that every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex at least has 3 numbers that we need to think about, and many of them have up to 5 numbers that we need to think about. Whenever I say think about, I mean adding them together to get our true property tax rate. So the 3 numbers that we have to think about regardless of the city that we go into is the city tax rate, the county tax rate, the ISD tax rate. Those are the 3 tax rates that we have to find when we do the screen share here shortly, or whenever we go into finding this property tax rate. Those are the 3 numbers that we need to find, and we're going to add those together once we do. Now, those are the 3 that every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex is going to have. The additional 2 that I'm referencing, though, so quick recap: the city tax rate, the county tax rate, the ISD tax rate, and the potential one is going to be a higher education tax rate and a potential healthcare tax rate or health network. So when I say higher education, think of like community college. And when I say healthcare network, think of like if you were in Dallas, think of Parkland. Those 2 are potentially going to be added into our equation. Now for Euless, we are in the Tarrant County, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to find out that information right now. So we're going to go with Euless property tax rate. We're going to go to Google and we're going to find out what that is. And Euless it looks like they're going to be really good for us. Oh, thank you, Lord Jesus. Awesome. Euless, you get an A+ for the way that you display your property tax rates, because not every city does this. Property taxes historically, if you've been following this channel, if you've been watching other breakdowns on the cities around here, you're going to notice that property tax rates vary quite a bit, but also just the cities have a really hard time of showing you this information in one cohesive spot. Thankfully, Euless does not have that issue. They straight up give you this information. So here's what we need to know. We need to add all these together in order to get a true number, but also, well, not all of them. We need to know which numbers we're going to add. So remember, we needed the city rate, we needed the county tax rate, we needed the ISD tax rate. We could potentially see a higher education tax rate, which here you see county college, and a potential hospital network. So JPS, John Peter Smith County Hospital Network. We have all the numbers that we need. So what we're going to do is, this may be a rare instance where we actually don't even need to do anything. So this is perfect. I'm such a fan now. Euless, I'm such a fan. They actually do the math for us. If you are in the HEB ISD, so Hearst, Euless, Bedford ISD school district, your tax rates, factoring all of the things together, factoring in city, county, Tarrant County, higher education, county, hospital network, and then the HEB ISD, your tax rate is going to be 1.8798. Now, if you're in the GC ISD, what's GC stand for? What does GC stand for? Oh, Grapevine Colleyville. Duh. Okay, I didn't know that there was. I didn't know that. Well, I guess that would make sense. The northwest. That would make sense off of Euless. That would make sense. I don't expect a lot of properties to be in this particular tax rate. Most of them are going to be in the HEB ISD anyway, which is slightly less. Not by much, but is slightly less. So with that being said, again, those three numbers plus the other 2 that we talked about. So you have the city, you have the county, you have the ISD. We're going to say HEB ISD for our purposes today, potentially the county higher education, and then the hospital network. So all those numbers we're going to add together, and we have 1.8798. So 1.88 is our tax rate, which, as a heads up, is among the lowest, let me say that again, among the lowest property tax rates in the entire Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. It's going to be very, very tough to beat this rate. And I mean extremely tough. I cannot overstate this enough. If I repeat myself 3 more times, just know that this is a rarity that you have a tax rate under 1.9%. And that's what this is. I know it's presented a little bit different because this was created by a lender. Win the House You Love, Kyle Seagraves, is the creator of this particular tool, this max price calculator. So shout out to him. And this is linked down below for you to leverage for your particular searches. But again, know that this is among the lowest property tax rates that you're going to find anywhere in the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. I cannot overstate that enough. Again, you're going to hear me say that probably 30 more times. All right, so now that we have the property tax rate, we are going to need to factor in our homeowner's insurance. So what is our homeowner's insurance going to be? We're going to do an estimate, and that estimate is basically 0.75% times the value of the home. And in this case, we're buying a $430,000 property in Euless. That will give us a certain premium, an estimated premium of how much we're going to be paying per month for homeowner's insurance. So once we toggle on the next tab, you're going to see what that number ends up being. Mortgage insurance rate, we're going to pretend that we have a conventional loan and that we have decent credit. With that being said, remember, since we put less than 20% down to purchase this property, we are going to be assessed mortgage insurance, and we're going to be assessed that mortgage insurance until we own at least 20% of the property that we just purchased. Once we own 20% of the property that we just purchased, then the mortgage insurance goes away. All right, so yearly HOA fees. Euless is, you're not going to find a ton of HOAs in Euless because of the nature of Euless has been around forever. A lot of the homes that have been sold are not being sold into HOA. I'm sorry, the homes that were sold were not sold into an HOA. But for our purposes today, we're going to go ahead and add a reasonable $400 per year in an HOA in the event that you purchase a home that is sold into one that essentially has an HOA. Although again, I'll tell you again, I'll say it one more time, that Euless does not really have a ton of HOAs. So you're going to be pleasantly surprised when you don't have to pay something close to $400 a year in HOA fees. It'll depend on the neighborhood. It'll depend on the home that you purchase. But again, you're not going to really factor that in. And hopefully that just becomes an afterthought for you. Now, with that being said, we're going to focus on our income and we're going to focus on our debts primarily now as we make our calculations before we toggle on or go on to tab number 3, which does all of the calculations for us. We've just been inputting the market conditions. We now know roughly what the interest rate is. We roughly know what the property taxes are in Euless at the moment. Now we're bringing our personal piggy bank, our personal finances into the equation. So we're going to say that we make $90,000 as the first guess. So we're going to have to guess, test, and revise back in high school. We're going to do a we're gonna say that we make $90,000 in this particular breakdown. Now, of course, with your particular breakdown, you don't have to guess. You can say how much you actually make, because that'll let you know how much you can afford. So you're going to put your salary there, and then you're also going to look for your debt. What debt do you have right now? When we talk about debt, we're talking about student loans. We're talking about child support. We're talking about car loans. Talking about credit cards. What are you paying? What debt do you have? What are you paying? So you're going to put the name of your debt here just for clarity, just to make sure that you have all the debt that you presently have in one place and make it easy for you to analyze later. And then the minimum monthly payment that you're paying. Don't put, if you're overpaying or if you're trying to get through your student loans a little bit quicker and you're paying more than the minimum monthly payment, don't put that number here. Just put a minimum payment. So you're going to be doing that. Now, quick reminder, what isn't debt is essentially expenses. Expenses like utilities, your phone bill, your gas, your food. Those are expenses. Those are already factored into the equation, so you don't need to add that. What we're looking for is the debt. Car loans, student loans, credit cards, personal loans, child support, things like that. So make sure that you put them here so you can have the calculation come off correctly. Now, the second thing that, sorry, not the second thing. If you have a co-borrower, somebody else is going to purchase this property with you, you can put their income here as well and do the same thing. Putting the name of the debt and also how much monthly payment you're making on that debt. For our purposes today, we're just going to say we make this amount and there's no debt in play at the moment. And we're going to go to our affordability dashboard to see how much we can actually purchase. What's the max price that we can pay on a property in Euless? And if we look at our breakdown, we see that we can purchase a property up to $395,000 and our monthly payment would be $34.50. This would be on the high end, and this is what we would consider a risky loan. Now, there's no such thing like anywhere like a lender. There's no such thing that categorizes that as risky or not. This is more of a subjective calculation, but whenever we're doing our calculations, we do not encourage you to get into the high end of what you can actually afford. We don't even encourage you to get into the aggressive side of things of what you can afford. Whenever we do our models, whenever we do our breakdowns, we try to be between moderate and aggressive. That's where we try to be. So for our purposes today, since we're trying to buy a $430,000 property, we need that $430,000 to fit between this and this. And as you can see, it doesn't. So what we need to do is we need to make more money in order to buy a home that we want in Euless of $430,000. So we need to go and see if we can get a raise for $110,000. Let's see if the boss will give us $20,000 raise, and we have met it. We met it. So if we make $110,000 and I'm going to buy a property in Euless, I would feel comfortable advising you that you would be able to afford that property making $110,000, because that would place us between the moderate and the aggressive loan. So all that to say is you would need $110,000 to buy this property in Euless. Now, also keep in mind that we did find properties that were under $300,000. We found 8 that were priced at that. So technically, yes, you can make less than $100,000 to buy a home in Euless, but the calculation that we were basing this off of was a property that we selected that was a bit more along the lines of what we were looking for, maybe a little bit bigger, a few more rooms, a different condition than what the lowest price properties in Euless actually were. So that does our math. That is the breakdown. That's how much you need. You would need $110,000 to buy that property in Euless. But I want to show you what the full breakdown of the principal, homeowners association, mortgage insurance, homeowners insurance, mortgage insurance, what this would look like. So I need this number right here to be $430,000. And in order for me to accomplish that, I need to just give myself another raise real quick, so I can force that number up. Oh, that's pretty darn close, no? Oh, yep. We're going to pretend that says $430,000 because I'm not going to be able to get too much closer. So with that being said, if we were buying a home for let's pretend this is $430,000, we would need a little bit over $21,000 as a down payment, and we would have almost an $11,000 estimated closing cost. So for us to come to the closing table, we would need $32,000, all things considered. So we would need about $32,000 to close on this property and purchase the property of $430,000. Now, what would our monthly payment look like? Our monthly payment would be roughly $3,700. $2,561 of that would be going to the principal and the interest. So essentially how much you borrowed and also what the expense of that loan would be. Property taxes. That's why it's very important for us to know where to get the property tax information so we can appropriately estimate and budget what the property taxes are going to be. In this case, you're looking at $670 in property taxes if we were being assessed the same value that we purchased the property in. Now, the pleasant surprise is that you're probably not going to be paying this much. You're going to be paying probably $630 maybe or so. It's going to be less. I can't necessarily tell you exactly how much less, but when it comes to property taxes, we've actually overestimated strategically. So you can budget in a conservative property tax rate. Homeowners insurance here again, this is an estimate, and your monthly premium is most likely going to be in the 260s mark. As you see here, 267 is what we have budgeted for homeowners insurance. Mortgage insurance, since we didn't put 20% down on the purchase of this home, we are paying mortgage insurance, and that mortgage interest is going to be roughly $200 per month. And as far as the association, the homeowners association, we budgeted in here. We put it in this particular tool just as a convenience, as a way for you to budget this into your numbers, but know that you are not paying a homeowners association in your actual monthly payment. Just be aware of that. So it's a number that you'll eventually pay, but that's going to be paid at the beginning of the year, independent of the mortgage payment and the mortgage payment that you're seeing here. But we like to call it out just so you had a clarity on what that looks like. Now, the last thing I wanted to get into real quick was showing the comparing home offers when you're in the heat of battle. Essentially, when you're making offers to purchase a property, most likely you're going to be asked to put less or more, or just depending on it's just going to depend on the real estate market. If it's a heavy competitive real estate market, then you're probably going to be offering more than the list price. If the market has softened up a bit, then you might be able to offer less. The reason I like to show you this particular breakdown is because it makes it so convenient for you to see, hey, if I offer 5% less on this property, how much down does that mean? What does that look like for closing costs? And what's my monthly payment going to be? It's much more digestible in this particular format as you're making decisions quickly. Whenever you're purchasing a property, especially in a competitive market, you might not have as much time to think about the breakdown on what that would implicate, what the purchase price is going to mean for your down payment, closing costs, your monthly mortgage payments. So we make this as easy as possible for you, so you don't have to do a ton of re-underwriting what your mortgage payment would be. Now, again, at the end of the day, what would you need to purchase how much do you need to make in order to purchase a home in the city of Euless? You would need to make $110,000 in order to purchase that $430,000 property in Euless. Now, hopefully this was helpful in some way. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please let me know in the comment section down below. If we can help you, and look, if you're thinking about buying, if you're thinking about selling, if you just want to have a discovery call specific to you on your specific situation, please feel free to reach out. We would love to support you in any way that we can. But outside of that, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on the way out, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.